Alright, the story of Old Man Greo. Old Man Greo was known as the best shoemaker in the country. His shoes were light as a feather and tough as steel. They were also expensive, 3 times higher than anything else on the market. People who did not know his reputation were so shocked to hear what he charged when they would say, "The old man must be making shoes for his own amusement." Of course, this was not the case. He had become a craftsman apprentice at a tender age, and whenever he learned one master skill, he would move on to more talented shoemakers. Before he knew it, he found himself making shoes for the grandchildren of his earliest customers. Greo was such a skilled craftsman. He could make any kind of shoe the customer ordered, but he was best at and most enjoyed making fixed-soled traveling shoes. All his customers agreed. Once you've traveled in Old Man Greo's shoes, you can't wear anybody else's. Some would say, you know what it's like to wear his shoes. You don't get tired the same way. You just want to keep walking, as far as you can. You almost hate to get where you're going. True craftsman that he was though. Old Greo rarely talked to his customers, and he could be downright unfriendly. Complimented on his work, he wouldn't so much as smile. Instead, he would put another piece of tanned leather in his wooden shoe, last, and start hammering away. The only time the old fellow would crack even the slightest smile was when a customer visited his workshop to place an order. Not that he was ever thrilled to get an order. What he enjoyed most was when a customer brought him a pair of shoes that had outlived its usefulness. He was there lovingly at the worn down soles and the disintegrating uppers, and he would actually talk to them. You've done some good traveling, I see. His regular customers would never dispose of their old shoes themselves because they knew how much he enjoyed this. Neither would they do anything so foolish as to clean the shoes before handing them over to the old man. He wanted them straight from the road, covered in dirt, oil-stained, and stinking of sweat. "These fellows are my stand-ins," he would say, choosing an honored place for them in the storehouse. "They take my place on the road, you know. They've done their job. I hate to throw them away just because they're no good anymore." Proud craftsman though he was, Old Greo never wore his own shoes. He couldn't have worn them even if he had wanted to. His legs were gone from the knees down. A terrible illness had attacked his bones when he was very young, and the legs had been amputated to save his life. The old man had lived his long life in a wheelchair. He had never once left his native village. This is what he meant when he said that his shoes did his traveling for him. "Haven't seen you for a while," Old Man Greo says without looking up from his work as Kaim's steps approach the threshold. His back is towards the door, but he can tell from the sound of the footsteps when a regular customer has entered his shop. You cross the desert? The sound tells him how worn down the shoes are, and where they have been. Old Man Greo is a craftsman of the first order. "It was a terrible trip," Kaim says with a grim smile, settling on a chair in the corner of the shop. When Old Greo is in the final stages of shoemaking, almost nothing can make him stop work, as all his regular customers know. "Were my shoes any good on this one?" "They were great. I couldn't have done it with anyone else's." "That's good." The old man doesn't sound the least bit pleased, which is to be expected. Greo is especially caught when he's working. If Kaim wants to see the old man smile, he will have to wait a little until he hands Greo his old shoes during a work break. He had ordered new ones. Uh-huh. Where to this time? Up north, most likely. Ocean, mountains, probably walking along the shore. To fight? Probably. Old Man Greo signals his understanding with a quick nod. He says nothing for a while. The only sound in the workshop comes from Greo's wooden mallet. Kaim is moved to hear it, like old times. He has ordered any number of shoes here, even before the old man took over the shop. Kaim is one of Old Man Greo's oldest customers. In other words, he is one of the few who have survived repeated journeys. Swinging his mallet and speaking in short snatches, the old man tells Kime about the deaths of some of his regular customers. Some fell ill and died on the road, others lost their lives in accidents, and not a few were killed in battle. It's hard when only the shoes come back. Kime nods in silence. One young fellow died a few weeks ago. He was wearing the first pair of shoes I ever made for him. The soles were hardly worn at all. Tell me about him. You know, you hear it all the time. Leaves his hometown, wants to live someplace exciting. Parents try to stop him, but he goes away anyway. I'm surprised he could afford shoes from you. The parents bought them. Sad, isn't it? They give their boy all this love and care, and he's barely out of childhood when he says he's going to leave home. They finally give up and decide to let him go. They figure they can at least give him a pair of shoes as a going away present. Less than a month later, he comes back a corpse. I don't know parents nowadays. They spoil their kids rotten. It's so damn stupid, Greo snarls. Kime knows that the old man's feelings go deeper than that. Old man Greo is the kind of craftsman who would rush to make new shoes for the funeral of a sad young man who had reached his last while his dream was only half finished. He would put them on the young man's feet in the coffin and pray that he would be able to go all the way on his final journey. Greo falls silent again and wields his mallet. Kime notices how bent and shriveled the old man has become. He has known him a long, long time. Those days will be ending soon enough, Kime thinks, with an ache in his chest. Old Greo finally reaches a point in his work where he can turn to face his customer. It's good to have you back, Kime. His face is covered with wrinkles. Kime realizes anew how old he has become. Where did you say you were traveling? The desert. Right, I think you told me that before. Kime shakes his head. The old man seems to lose his power of concentration when he isn't working, and his memory is shaky sometimes. Little by little, but unmistakably, old Greo is spending more and more time drifting in the space between dream and reality. People grow old and die. The truth of this all too obvious destiny strikes Kime with a special force whenever he completes a long journey. So you survived this one too, I see. Kime looks at him with a strange smile. Have you forgotten? I can't die. Oh, I guess I knew that. And I never get old. I look just like I did the first time you met me, don't I? The old man looks momentarily stunned. Oh, I guess I knew that too, he says, nodding uncertainly. Sure, you were a kid then. You had just had that sickness and lost your legs, and you were crying all day long. That's right, I remember. You used to call me Big Brother Kime and play with my old shoes, don't you remember? Yes, of course. Greo speaks with certainty now. Either the fog has cleared or the distant memory has come back with special clarity because it comes from so long ago. The soles were worn down, there were holes here and there, and they had a sour stink of mud and sweat. To other people, they must have looked like plain old shoes ready for the garbage, but to me, they were a treasure. I remember running my finger through the coat. Of road dust that had covered them, and trying to imagine where they had been. I enjoyed it so much, I really enjoyed them. Kime's shoes were what got old Greo started as a shoemaker. It was all thanks to you, Kime. If I hadn't met you, I would have spent my life cursing my fate. Instead, I've been happy. I'm happy now. Even if I can't leave this workshop, my sons can travel for me. I've had a happy life. He pauses. Well now, will you listen to me talking up a storm? Greo says with an embarrassed smile. He extends a thick hand to Kime. All right now, give me my sons, he says, and Kime hands him the worn-out old shoes he had brought with him. The old man strokes them fondly and says with a sigh, "You've been through many a battle. I was a mercenary too, for a time." "I know that," says Greo. "I can smell the blood. All the shoes that traveled with you are like this. Are you angry?" "Not at all. I'm just glad you came back from this latest trip in one piece. I'll be leaving as soon as you make me the new ones. Another one of those trips to war? And when that journey ends, you'll leave on another one. Probably. How long can you keep it up? Khan's only answer is a grim smile. Forever. This is not a work to speak lightly in the presence of someone who has lived what little time he has to the fullest. Oh well, never mind, the old man says, turning his back on Khan to continue his work. Wait 3 days. You can leave the morning of the 4th day. That'll be fine. When will we meet next after that? 2 years maybe. 3? It could be a little longer. Really? Well, then this could be the last pair of shoes I ever make for you. Khan believes it will be. The old man is not likely to last 3 more years. Khan fervently wishes it was not so, but wishing by itself can do nothing. Only those who possess eternal life know that this is precisely why the time a person lives is so irreplaceably precious. Say, Khan, what's that? Mind if I make a second pair of shoes out of the same piece of leather to match your new ones? They will be for himself, he explains, to be placed in his coffin for his for his life's final journey. I'd like that, answers Khan. The old man swings his mallet instead of thanking him. The sound is far sadder and lonelier than usual. Come to think of it though, Khan, be sure to come back to this town even after I'm dead. Offer up your old shoes at my grave. I will. I'd like to say I'll be going to heaven a step ahead of you and waiting for you there. But in your case it doesn't work. No, unfortunately. What's it like? An endless journey? Happy? Unhappy? Probably unhappy, Khan replies, but his voice is drowned out in the rising sounds of Greo's mallet until it is lost even to his own ears. Old man Greo reached the end of his full span of years soon after Khan's visit to his shop. Because Greo had no family, his grave in the cemetery at the edge of town was cared for by his many sons. In accordance with his wishes, his regular customers offered up their old shoes at his grave. Khan's shoes were among them. The words inscribed on his gravestone were chosen by Greo himself. He explained his choices to Khan this way. I would say the words to each new pair of shoes before I handed them to the customer. I always said them to the customer too. I once had the experience though of hearing someone say the words to me. That's why I want them on my gravestone. These are the words I want to be seen off with. Fucking music. I want to be seen off with on my journey to heaven. Several decades flow by. Not only old man Greo, but all the customers who knew him has long since departed the world. The only one who still comes to pay his respects is Khan. He no longer wears shoes that were crafted by the old man. Like the life of the man, the life of a pair of shoes cannot be eternal. Still, Khan comes to the town at the beginning of every journey, touching his forehead to the ground at the old man's grave. The gravestone is covered with moss, but the words engraved on it, strangely enough, are still clearly legible. May your journey be a good one. These were the words the old man always spoke. Coming from his mouth, they could be brusque, but they were always charged with feeling. James, I blame you for this. Great, starting off first stream, we're 15 minutes in with a sad story about a shoemaker.